Picture this, it's a crisp December morning in Oakwood Estates. The kind of picture-perfect suburb where every lawn is manicured like it's auditioning for a magazine. I'm up on my ladder, stringing the last warm white lights along the gutter, when this golf cart screeches to a halt in my driveway like it's responding to a 911 call. Out steps Evelyn Cartwright, our HOA president. Clipboard in one hand, superiority complex in the other, looking like she just caught me burying a body in the azaleas. "Ryan," she says, voice dripping with that fake sweet tone she reserves for violators. "Those lights are excessive. They're disrupting the neighborhood's curated aesthetic." She jabs her pen at my 12-foot inflatable Santa like it's personally insulted her bloodline. "And that thing? Visible from 3 streets over. You've got 72 hours to tone it down, or I'll have to issue a formal notice." I just stared at her. It was Christmas. For God's sake. Not a rave in the cul-de-sac. But Evelyn wasn't here for reason. She was here for control. And in Oakwood Estates, that meant she owned the rulebook and apparently the right to rewrite it whenever her ego needed a polish. I smiled. The kind of smile that doesn't reach the eyes. "Evelyn, I appreciate the concern. Really. But last I checked, the bylaws say nothing about excessive cheer." She flipped a page on her clipboard, pretending to scan something important. "It falls under Section 4.2, General Visual Disturbances. The board's unanimous on this." The board. Right. Evelyn. Her 2 hand-picked lapdogs Brenda and Joyce. And whatever puppet they dragged in that week. I nodded like I was taking her seriously. "I'll take it under advisement." The second her golf cart disappeared around the corner, I made a decision. I wasn't taking anything down. Hell, I was going to make it legendary. The next morning, I dragged out the big guns, a 15-foot Santa, a herd of glowing reindeer, and lights synced to Carol of the Bells that hit so hard the bass rattled the windows. My neighbor Marcus wandered over with a 6-pack and a grin. "Bro, you trying to get us all evicted?" "Nah," I said, plugging in the final strand. Just reminding her who actually lives here. By Tuesday, word had spread like cheap tinsel. Evelyn had hit 3 other houses with the same nonsense. Maria's nativity scene was too religious, the Johnsons' rainbow lights were distracting, and poor Mr. Delaney's single strand got labeled a fire hazard even though the man hadn't changed a bulb since Y2K. So we did what any self-respecting neighborhood would do. We escalated. Maria brought in live goats for her nativity. The Johnsons wrapped every tree in their yard like it was Vegas. Mr. Delaney, bless his cranky soul, hung a 20-foot Merry Christmas Karen banner across his porch that you could see from the highway. By Friday, our block looked like the North Pole had a baby with Times Square. Kids were sledding through the lights. Cars were slowing down just to stare. It was beautiful. It was chaotic. It was perfect. Evelyn lost her mind. She started doing drive-bys at night like a budget Batman, snapping photos with her phone flashlight on full blast. Then came the Friday night ambush. She showed up at my door with Brenda and Joyce in tow, both looking like they'd rather be getting root canals. "Ryan," Evelyn said, voice tight as a fresh facelift, "this has gone far enough. You're inciting a spectacle." I leaned against the doorframe, sipping my coffee. "Spectacle? Evelyn, we're just celebrating the holidays. You know, that thing normal people do?" Her face went the color of a bad Christmas sweater. "You're all in violation. Every single one of you. I've already filed complaints with code enforcement." That's when I knew she'd crossed the line from annoying to dangerous. The code enforcement officer showed up at 7 a.m. sharp the next Tuesday. Nice lady. Name tag said Officer Ramirez. She walked the whole setup. Checked every outlet. Every timer. Every grounded cord. Looks cleaner than most of the permanent installs I see, she said. Snapping photos. You're good. I caught Evelyn watching from her golf cart half a block away. Binoculars glued to her face like she was tracking a fugitive. I waved. She didn't wave back. That afternoon, the letters started. Marcus got one claiming his yard had become a commercial attraction because people were stopping to take pictures. Maria's was about unauthorized livestock. Mr. Delaney's accused him of structural modifications to his porch. All of us. Hit with the same bureaucratic nonsense. Just different flavors. I'd had enough. I drove down to City Hall and filed a public records request for every email. Every complaint. Every notice the HOA had sent in the last 6 months. The clerk actually laughed when I said the name. Cartwright's crew? You're the 4th person this week. That night, I sat at my kitchen table with a bottle of bourbon and a stack of papers that made my stomach turn. 37 complaints to the city. None of them signed by the full board. Dozens of violation notices with forged signatures from Brenda and Joyce. Legal threats that weren't in the bylaws. And the real kicker, checks written to Cartwright Consulting LLC for administrative services that somehow totaled almost $30,000 in the last year. She wasn't just a control freak. She was running a grift. I called Joyce first. Caught her in her driveway unloading groceries. We need to talk, I said quietly. Not about the lights. She looked at the papers I showed her and went pale. I never signed any of these. Neither did Brenda. She told us she was handling everything. That's not handling, I said. That's fraud. The next morning, we met with a civil attorney who specialized in HOA cases. He took one look at the stack and whistled. This isn't just unethical. This is felony territory in Colorado. We didn't stop there. I called an emergency neighborhood meeting in the Johnsons' garage. 60 people showed up. I stood in front of them holding up one of the forged notices. This, I said, is a lie. And it's been sent to half of you. The room went dead quiet. Then the stories poured out. She told me I'd lose my house if I didn't remove my basketball hoop. She fined me $750 for leaving my trash cans out an extra hour. She tried to have my fence torn down because the color was non-compliant. Joyce stepped forward. Voice shaking but steady. I didn't sign any of those letters. Brenda didn't either. Evelyn's been acting alone. The vote to call a special election was unanimous. We had the signatures by Sunday. Over 70% of the neighborhood. Evelyn's response? A mass email, and signed. Of course, declaring the entire thing illegitimate and threatening legal action against anyone who participated. That was her final mistake. Joyce forwarded it straight to the state HOA Oversight Board. Within 48 hours, an investigator was on the phone. 3 days later, 2 auditors showed up at the HOA office with a warrant and started boxing up files. The next week, a sheriff's deputy knocked on Evelyn's door. She didn't answer. But she couldn't hide forever. The board meeting that followed was standing room only. People spilled out into the hallway. Evelyn was a no-show. Joyce called the meeting to order. We moved to remove Evelyn Cartwright from the board. Effective immediately. Every hand in the room went up. The new board, real people, not power-tripping Karens, took over that night. And then the real fun began. Brenda, now treasurer, was the one who found the smoking gun. While auditing the accounts, she noticed a pattern of payments to Cartwright Consulting LLC. Same company Evelyn had registered herself. Same P.O. box. Same scam. They dug deeper. Fake invoices from a landscaping company that hadn't done a single job in 2 years. Inflated consulting fees. Even Amazon purchases for personal crap charged to the HOA, everything from a Peloton to a trip to Aspen she'd labeled as a board retreat. Total? Just shy of $100,000. We took it all to the sheriff's office. The detective didn't even let us finish explaining before he called in the financial crimes unit. 2 days later, they executed a search warrant on Evelyn's house. I wasn't there, but I saw the video a neighbor posted, cruisers in the driveway. Detectives carrying out boxes. Evelyn standing on her porch in yoga pants and a face that finally looked scared. She tried to run. Made it as far as a rental cabin in the mountains before they caught her. The mugshot hit the local news that night. She looked small. Defeated. Human. The trial was brutal. I testified about the lights. About how it started with a simple decoration and ended with her trying to destroy anyone who pushed back. The prosecutor played the emails. The contractor she'd been skimming with flipped on her in exchange for a deal. The jury was out for less than 2 hours. Guilty on all counts. 8 years. No parole for 5. Full restitution. The neighborhood threw a block party the weekend after the sentencing. Not a rebellion party. A real one. Lights everywhere. Music. Kids running wild. No clipboards. No rules about how many strands you could hang. We rewrote the bylaws from scratch. Everything now needs a community vote. Finances are public. Meetings are live-streamed. The HOA isn't a weapon anymore. It's just neighbors. Last week, I upgraded the lights to a smart system. Not to prove a point. Just because I can. And every night when they come on, I think about Evelyn sitting in a cell somewhere. Probably still convinced she was the victim. Funny thing about power. The people who crave it the most are always the ones who deserve it the least. So here's the question I want you to sit with tonight. When your neighborhood Karen comes for your Christmas lights, your garden gnomes, or the color of your front door, is she really protecting the aesthetic? Or is she just terrified that if people stop being afraid of her, she'll finally have to face the fact that she's nobody without the clipboard? Drop your answer in the comments. Because I already know mine. And next time, I'm adding the dancing Santa.